premier Ford dealership is located here in Cabarrus County, where more than 70 years in the business lends to an incredible experience for every customer, every time. Whether you're looking for the toughness of an F-150, the spirit of a Bronco, or the versatility of an Explorer, you'll find it all at Hildish Ford, your truck destination. Come experience the Hildish difference in Kannapolis, just a 10-minute drive from Charlotte Motor Speedway, or get started online at hildishford.com.
Talk, Ryan. Here we are on location once again. Dayvault's Dyno Garage, the historic Dayvault's Dyno Garage. That's a mouthful.
It is.
And you know, we've had such good reception from the initiative that was Eric Dearman's idea. Although you know we had talked about it as well. The Mill People, and we did Your Mother episode 1 not too long ago, and here we are again. We're going to do episode 2 of the Mill People. So we still got Dr. Dave, Chuck Irvin over there. A little bit different than our typical K-Town Connection show, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. And Ryan, I'm going to let you do the honors and on your birthday, by the way.
On my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And let you introduce our incredible guest.
Well, and, you know, we had one more before my mom. It was the kind of the pilot episode of this, trying to test the water,
Yes.
so to speak. And that was Bobby Eagle.
Incredible.
And that was an incredible show for sure. But today we have someone who, I can't tell you how many people who have said you need to get Keith Garver on your Mill People show, or talk to him about, you know, whatever you want to talk to him about the mill and everything. And I said, well, you know, I think it's a great idea. He's on my list. He's been on my list, and not only is he a lifelong resident of Kannapolis. I went to high school with his son Lee, great guy, and he's my backdoor neighbor.
Absolutely.
So Keith, welcome to
Thank you.
Mill People show of the K-Town Connection.
Thank you very much, and happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much for that. It's 40 is a big deal.
It is a big deal. Our son Leo turned 40 in January.
He's got just a couple months behind me.
That's right.
Are you 40 yet, Chris?
I will be 49 in 12 days.
Wow.
Want to do a show?
You
on
guys
your
are
birthday?
kids.
We'll do a show.
You guys are kids.
See, this is tried and true. We're plowing on. We're having a show on my birthday. I mean, that's how dedicated we are. That's right.
Wow. So, Lee, first, thanks for joining us
Not
here.
Lee, Keith.
Hey, I've been called worse. That's okay. You call me Lee. You can call me Lee anytime.
Ding.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's fine.
He's a good dude.
He's a good dude.
I'm getting rough talked on my own show.
Yeah.
Keith,
You
my
should.
That's
apologies.
okay.
My mind is full. It's been a full day.
I understand.
But anyhow, thanks for joining us
Started
here.
bright and early,
Thank
11
you.
o'clock, didn't
Yeah.
Yep.
When Ryan and I first put our list together for the K-Town Connection, like 4 years ago, you were actually on our list for the K-Town Connection, and then we kind of migrated over to this Mill People to honor the heritage of the people that worked for Cannon Mills and Fieldcrest Cannon. You grew up, though, in Kannapolis, so before we even get to any of the mill talk, I just want to learn a little bit more about you, so maybe a lot of the folks that's watching that doesn't know who Keith Garver is. Tell us about where you grew up, when you grew up, and what your experience here in town was like.
Okay, well, obviously I was born here, and my parents lived on Carolyn Avenue in Jackson Park, and we had two houses. I don't recall the first house, but it was 705 Carolyn Avenue until I was in the fourth grade. And then we moved to Jackson Street, right down from the bowling alley. And you could walk out the front door, and I could see the roof of Woodrow Wilson School. And my parents said, you know, you got to change schools. And I said, I'm going to be a Jackson Park Blue Devil. I am not going to Woodrow Wilson School. So they said, well, you're going to have to walk. And I said, that's okay, I'll walk. I'm in the fourth grade. So that's a pretty good little haul from, you know, basically the bowling alley, Jackson Park Elementary School. You got to understand.
Especially crossing 29.
Well, you're crossing 29, and this is before 85, so it's extremely busy. And then on the left was Johnny's. Johnny's was on the left. Terry's was on the right.
Yeah.
And the third shift workers be at Johnny's drinking beer. I guess I'm sure they were third shift workers. So I'd kind of pick up my pace a little bit going to school. If you do that today, police would probably arrest your parents or pick you up or some perv. But
that's right.
Anyway, I walked pretty quick and I got to school. So I did play for the Jackson Park Blue Devils. So I think we were 0-6. So
But that was the thing back in the time.
it was every elementary school. I
agree. I lived on Walker Street, and I walked to Shady Brook School.
Sure.
And it
Absolutely.
was not unheard of back
Right.
then.
Right.
It was just common sense.
Yeah.
I'm a fellow Jackson Parkian or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, really?
But we were Silver Foxes when
We were the Blue Devils. We were the
How about
Jackson
that?
That's a
Park.
Fred L. Wilson Red Devil.
You were a Red Devil? See, I didn't want to be a Red Devil. I want to be a Blue Devil.
Red Devil.
But when I played on my YMCA football league, I was on the Jackson Park team, and we were blue and white, and we were sponsored by Terry Products.
Okay.
Terry Berryman was our coach.
Okay.
How about
All right.
Cool.
So obviously, I got through Jackson Park, Old Canyon High School, graduated from Brown, went to a community college for 2 years, transferred, graduated from Pfeiffer in 1976. So that's been almost
49
50
years ago.
Yeah,
50.
yeah. Matter of fact, I was in New York a couple of weeks ago with some guys from Pfeiffer just celebrate 50 years basically that we were together at school. So
Wow.
anyway, far as someone asked me, so when did you start working in the mill? And I told them, I said 1897. And they said 1897. I said, well, you got to understand, my grandfather was born in 1897. Worked in number 2 weave room. My grandmother was born. She really didn't know when she was born, but we think about 1900, and she worked in the spinning room. I think it was number 7, and they were still working. I still recall before they retired. And my dad was born in 1923, and they were good people. They just didn't value education back then. He dropped out of school in the 5th grade. Probably, I'm not real sure when he went to work in Cannon Mills, but he ended up in number 2 weave room. My grandfather worked there. My mother grew up on a tobacco farm in eastern North Carolina, and her parents were dirt poor, but unlike my grandparents were great people. When she turned 13, she got on a bus and went to Greenville, South Carolina to Holmes College or Holmes Bible College and graduated high school. I think it was 45, and had no desire to go back to the farm. And like people migrated to Kannapolis, she came to Kannapolis. And I'm not sure, I think she lived Minnie Wiles. Does that name?
Yeah, Centerview.
Centerview. I think she lived in a
Wiles
boarding
Cafe.
I think she lived in a boarding house. Did they own a boarding house?
That is true.
Okay.
Right behind the cafe.
That's right. It had the taxi stand and the cafe all right.
Well, guess
there
where she ended up? She ended up in number 2 weave room.
How about that? Where your granddaddy was.
Yeah, so my grandfather told her, said, I want you to meet my son. My dad was in the Army. He was in France at the time. Greatest generation. Never forget it.
Absolutely.
And so he comes home from the war. They got married. I think it was 1947. And then my brother was born in 50. I was born in 53. So there, my grandfather was in number 2 weave room. My mother was in number 2 weave room. My brother, when he was in high school and college, he ended up number 2 weave room. So see if I can get my dates right. On Thursday, December 11th, 1969, I turned 16. So I go to the personnel department. I remember it was Sue Black and Harold Turner. And they hired me to work on Saturdays and holidays and summers. Guess where? Number two weave room. Number 2 weave room.
The trend right
Garver
here.
tradition.
Yeah, so should have called
We got
it.
just a place for you.
We got the place for you. It's called number 2. And I said, weave room. So I was thinking about this on the way over. So I started that Saturday. I think I made $1.60 an hour. And this was right before Christmas. And I worked about right before Christmas, and I got sick. And I'm never sick. I mean, I was really sick. I broke out in this terrible rash. And I remember they took me to Lee Nance, Dr. Nance.
He
looked
was
at me
my
and said,
doctor. Millie Hall.
I was in Millie Hall.
the
I was
professional
convinced I
building.
was allergic to number 2 weave room. And he looked at me and said, boy, you got the chicken pox.
Oh,
I thought I was going to die. But anyway, so I worked every Saturday, every holiday, every summer. But believe it or not, I would quit in August to play football, high school football. Then after football, I'd go back and they'd hire me back in number 2 weave room. So I did that, all the way through till I graduated from college. I was dolphin cloth. That was my primary job, which was an incentive job, which paid really quite well for a kid. Mm-hmm. And I worked pretty hard at that. And so I was going to graduate from college, which I did, believe it or not. I really did. I really did graduate in 1976. And Elmer Spence was the director of manufacturing. And he sent word, said, what's Keith Garver going to do when he graduates? I said, well, I'm getting married in a month, but I need a job. And they said, well, you want to come work for us? And I said, well, yeah. I mean, it was good enough for my grandfather, good enough for my dad. I guess sounds pretty good. I'll be there for life, and I'll be able to retire from there, I thought. But so I graduated from college on, I think it was May the 16th, which was a Mother's Day, and started the 17th of May as a trainee in the distribution center. And I was there, and that was 1976 until October 31st, 2003.
Was that towel or sheet distribution?
It was towel. It was towel. I spent a short period of time in the bedding division. I really preferred. I was happy when I got back into the bath division. So
you said a term, dolphin cloth.
Dolphin cloth. There's all kinds of dolphin cloth is basically just the looms were producing rolls of cloth, and they had to be taken off the loom. I don't know why we call it dolph, but that was the name of the job. I just had scissors and a strong back, and I was pretty healthy back then, and cut the cloth off, put it on the truck, and from there I guess it went to the finishing department. But it was an incentive job, and I'd really try to hustle. My senior year after football, I was working 3 to 7 trying to make some money, dolphin cloth. And someone else was supposed to come in from 7 to 11 because the deal, you'd have to dolph the whole section of the looms, part of the weave room, every 8 hours. They never could get anyone to do it because it really was a hard job. So I told them, I said, look, don't hire anyone. I'll stay as late as it takes. If it takes me to 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I'll do it. But if I'm having a good night, if I finish at 6, I'm going home. But they were happy to have somebody to do it.
How about that?
That's great.
Yeah.
So then, how did you get, being an incentive job, did you get paid per roll?
Per roll. It was per roll. It was per roll. And it was, it was much higher, because making $1.60 an hour, then it went up to $2. I did pretty well on the incentive job.
Now, how did you rise? How did you rise up in the mill?
As a trainee, they put me on a training program, and that lasted probably 6 or 8 months. And I knew when it was over that, sadly, I'd be going to the second shift, and that was painful.
3 to 11.
3 to 11. I did that for 2 years, and I was really unhappy. And I kind of looked around the distribution center, and I just didn't see me getting off that second shift for a while. So Harold Roseman was the superintendent, and they kind of knew I was unhappy, and I was kind of keeping my eye open for something else. And show you how smart I am, they said, we're thinking about starting a third shift. Would you consider doing that? And I thought, at least I'd be home at night. At least I may have a Saturday night. And they said, I don't think it's going to last too long. So I started the third shift. It lasted 5 years.
Oh.
I thought I would die. I mean, we're animals. We're meant to sleep during the night and hunt during the day. It was tough. But, looking back, it kind of prepared me to be plant manager, quite honestly, because I was pretty familiar with everything. So, I was blessed. I moved up from, I think we call them foreman to department manager, superintendent. And I guess I became plant manager about 8 or 10 years before we closed.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, so I've been pretty blessed.
Who was in that role before you?
Bob White was the plant manager before I took over. Bob moved to marketing, and it just really worked out.
So what all was your roles as plant manager? What did you have to
Well, I had all
do?
I had all the bath distribution and what's called order services, which was data entry, all the orders coming in.
Oh.
But, I mean, we were in our heyday when I became plant manager. I had 365 hourly employees and about 3.2 million square feet of storage and probably 30 salaried supervisors in the DC and probably 30 salaried people on what we call the 5th floor.
And how old were you at that time?
I was 40.
Wow.
Which is relatively young.
Yeah.
For to be
Yeah.
at that higher
I was,
level.
you know,
that
I was
great.
kind of at the right place at the right time.
That's great.
Kind of some dominoes kind of fell in my favor, and
But you grew up learning the job, and you had
yeah,
to
I did.
supervise people. To do
Yeah,
the job.
I did, and it was a good run until it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
You know.
Tell us about a lot of the people. And, you know, one of the things that we like to celebrate here, whether with the K-Town Connection, obviously here with the mill people, is talking about the people. And I'm not necessarily asking any specific names or anything, but just the relentlessness, you know, that's one of the words that we've used that kind of describes people from Kannapolis, you know, resiliency, just the everyday guys come to work, clock in, bring your lunchbox. I mean, just the general attitude of the people that work here.
Yeah, and especially if you get down in the DC, a lot of the jobs are on incentive. Like we had what's called order pickers. I don't know
Yeah.
if anybody ever
Well, my
went.
mom was over.
Yeah,
that.
your mother was a great supervisor for me on the second shift, and these guys were on incentive. They were picking orders, so they would walk up at the very end. You know, we came a little bit high tech. They would punch in their ID number, and it would get spit out an order. And these guys, they would take off running because they were, you know, based on incentive.
Right.
Even downstairs loading trucks, people were paid by the pound, how many pounds they loaded. It was just good, hard working people. And really, they were paid a fair wage at the time. I mean, when we went out of business in 2003, I would say in the distribution center. Now, 2003, the average person was probably making between $15 and $18 an hour. 2003,
That's
and they had a 401k, a pension plan, and affordable health insurance.
Right.
So that was pretty strong.
I mean, yeah, my mom, she's sitting here watching all this, but
Sure.
you know, she said on her show, and she says it all the time, if it was still open, she'd still be there.
Well,
'cause she loved that place.
here's my soapbox, and I tell everyone, you know, people say, well, Keith, you don't understand, it's a low-end industry. I said, okay. I said, you know, back then you could bought a bath towel for $5, it last you 10 years. Buy a pack of cigarettes for $5, ask you 24 hours. But it just wasn't the towel, it was the supply chain attached to the towel. It was the machinery, the chemicals, the cartons, sales and marketing, IT, legal, supervision. I just think I just think things would have been. I think we destroyed the middle class.
Yeah, no doubt.
By you know, I think my government decided they'd rather see people work maybe in China and Pakistan, Vietnam, more than people here. So,
Well,
just my theory.
And you know, I don't even remember who told me this, and I went and found it because I was in such shock. But probably a year or so ago, maybe 2 years now, somebody told me, said I went to South America and went to this country and the city and got off the train or whatever they were riding, bus or whatever, and here right across the street is a Canon plant with our logo and everything. And
Sure.
And this person went into that plant because he was just astonished. You know, this brand new place, and walks in and talks to some people that work there, and found people that speak English well enough to understand
Sure.
what was going on, what
Yeah.
he was trying to tell them. He said, I'm from Kannapolis, where Canon started, and they said, yeah. I said, all of our equipment came from
And what country was
Kannapolis.
this?
It was in South America. I don't remember the exact country. And I went and looked it up on my phone, did a street view of that place.
Sure.
And sure enough.
Yeah, when we went
It's
out of
all
business, the brands were sold, the brand names were
Right.
sold. one thing kind of bothered me. Some of our stuff went to Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is 2003.
Right after September 11th.
Well, at that time, they're hiding bin Laden,
Mm-hmm.
probably killing some of our kids. And there goes some of our equipment to
Right.
Pakistan.
Right.
Pakistan.
Of all places.
Definitely
Of
a
all
stab in
places.
the heart of this country. And
Yeah.
it's continued for so many years,
Yeah.
not only with towels and sheets, but furniture and
Yeah, furniture. I mean,
everything.
it took a beating, but it was a slow death. I mean, when I started, obviously the Cannon family owned the company, and I think David Murdoch, from memory, purchased about 1982,
yeah.
and I think he sold it to Fieldcrest in '86. Unlike some people, I'll give David Murdoch some grace. Was he perfect? No. Did he make some decisions probably the Cannon family didn't want to make? Yes. But if he didn't do anything else, for someone who lives here, I am so thankful that he came back 27 years later. And contrary to what some people believe, he didn't close the mill. He was
Right.
27 years after that. If not for David Murdoch, we might be growing grass and rats downtown, and that would be it.
That's exactly right.
So
No question about
you
it.
know,
And
Good point.
I've said that to so many people that, there's things that have been misstepped and
Sure.
nothing's been perfect. But if he had not have had the craziness to come back and tear
Sure.
down and spend $60 million tearing down what was there just to give the city a chance at a new beginning.
Yeah.
Just a chance. Because
Absolutely.
most places don't even have that chance because nobody's crazy enough to spend that kind of money. doing
listen,
what
I
he did.
have my college roommate grew up here. He's been away. He lives in Savannah, around Savannah, and he came back 20 years after the fact, a couple of years ago. He couldn't believe it. He said, "I can't believe this." Can you imagine my grandfather, born 1897, died in 1980?
Yeah.
Come back and see.
Well, you said something a minute ago when you made it to plant manager. That was kind of the heyday. So that would have been 93, 92,
Probably so,
93.
yeah.
And that's the exact time that when they had the Earnhardt Day.
Yep.
And
Did?
Channel 36 did that really cool video of Dale driving through downtown, and he's talking about the mill, and there's the train depot. He's talking about where his mom works and Nita's, and
Sure.
and I've seen that video and watched it hundreds of times because I love that particular, just that feel that you get by watching it, him driving through town. It is so symbolic of what made this town what it is and what it was for so long.
Right. I agree.
And that was in the heart of that heyday.
Yeah.
There is no question about it.
Yeah, we were wide open. We were probably producing about 50,000 dozen bath towels a day.
Wow.
50,000.
50,000
Dozen.
dozen
Wow.
bath towels a
Golly.
day. That's not counting hand towel and washcloth.
That is
I mean, we were
unbelievable.
wide open back in the heyday.
My dad always talked about, that one of the problems was because of how consumerism is in this country. It's become a throwaway society every year that goes past. It becomes more and more throwaway type of
Right.
a world. That Cannon's products lasted too long.
That's what I said,
We have
yeah.
towels, that are 50 years old and they're still perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they've been washed thousands of times.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it was,
You know? I mean, it
Way
goes back.
before their time.
You're, $5 for a pack of cigarettes and $5 for a hand towel. I mean, that's going to last. You can wash cars. You can, do anything you want to with it, and it's going to come out in the wash perfect.
Yeah, we still, at our house, we still have some things.
Oh,
that
yeah.
Even after we went out of business, 23 years ago or 20 years ago, whenever, 22 years maybe.
So
Yeah.
what was it like? I mean, my mom was, and I've told this story numerous times, but my mom was packing her lunch. She'd already packed her lunch because she was second shift at Plant 6 when
Right.
the mill closed. And then it popped on television, and Pilotech's immediate closure, all 6,000, 7,000 people terminated immediately. So she wasn't in the mill literally when the announcement was made. She was getting ready to go into work. So, and that she couldn't go in. I mean, she didn't even drive to Concord that day because it was
Right.
over. What was it like being there that day as plant manager? and disseminating that news. We didn't have Facebook. You didn't have all the social media that we have today. It was traditional media outlets and newspaper mainly, television mainly. What was it like delivering that news to the people that
I can tell you it was tough. I received a call that I needed to be in what was called the small auditorium of the main office, and basically we were told that we were closing, we were liquidating, and so I went back and had to get everybody together, and these men were just crying. It was terrible. I mean, it was what we did immediately. There was a 3-shift operation. Second, third shift. That day I said, it's over for you guys. It's they went home without a job. And on the first shift, the banks or the court had approached me about staying. Not because I was special. They just needed somebody to liquidate everything, all the towels. And so we kept a group of people to pack what was in the packing room. We had to have people downstairs loading trucks. But before that, it was kind of a slow death before that. I mean, we filed bankruptcy, I think, twice. Mm-hmm. When you do that, first thing you do, sadly, you start terminating people. And that was tough. It was hard on the hourly people, but I kind of let attrition take care of most of that. You could see that we were going down a road we probably wouldn't recover. The hard part was probably the women in the office. I mean, I was 40 years old, but some of these people kind of babied me. And I was having to call them in, probably 6 months before we went out of business. And I had one lady approach me on a Thursday. We always did it on a Friday. And there were no secrets in the cotton mill, I tell you. And there was a rumor there was a Black Friday coming. This lady approached me and she said, Keith, there's a rumor there's going to be a layoff tomorrow. And she said, I need to work, and I hope my name's not on the list. Well, I knew it was on the list. And that was pretty tough, Yeah. It was all orchestrated. You would call them into your office, and we had a little script we would say, and IT would immediately turn their computer off so no one could do anything, You had security. I never had any issues with anyone, but you had security available in case you had an issue with someone. So you'd ask them to gather their things and not speak to anyone and please leave quietly. But that was hard. And looking at these men, watch them cry, it was a tough day. Because you didn't know. I mean, 2003, the economy, it sucked.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of these people, what were they going to do? How were they going to feed their family? And one thing about it, I was plant manager. I was no different than the sweeper. I lost my job as well.
Right.
So.
I mean, I can't imagine being there and watching that last towel go out the
let me
gate.
tell you about the last towel. They called me. I was in my office, and they said, you need to come downstairs. We had a pretty elaborate conveyor system. You can imagine. I mean, we were in multiple buildings. The last box at Cannon Mills was getting ready to go through the conveyor system.
Wow.
And we just stood there and watched it. And there at the very end, we ended up selling. I mean, we were going in, like my office, I had towels, decoration or whatever on the walls. I mean, we were going in offices, everywhere, taking towels out of drawers. And we were selling them by the pound, I think the big lots.
Oh, wow.
Man.
Ollies and big lots, just to get rid of them.
Do you have any idea where that last case was shipped to?
Probably big lots, if I had to.
That's terrible.
And that had to be.
And we, that's after a 116-year-old company.
Right.
So I stood there and watched this box be placed on the truck.
Like a funeral.
Very.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. It was a slow death and then a death and then a funeral. And I walked upstairs and Wanda Honeycutt, she was the manager for me over the order entry. And we just kind of looked at each other, and it was Friday. It was my son's birthday. It was Lee. It was his last regular season football game. It had been canceled because the other team got in a fight.
And I remember that.
Huh? I think it was North
North
Iredale.
Iredale.
I think it was
Right, North Iredale.
North
I remember
Iredale.
that well.
Yeah. So I went home and I thought, I don't have a job. I don't have any severance. What am I going to do?
Wow.
You know, but I was no different than anyone else. Don't feel sorry for me.
That's true. You're right.
You know, it's just,
Man.
it was a tough day.
In our class, Lee's, you know, our high school class, we were the first ones to go in our senior year without the mill as an option.
Right.
Because every other class that had graduated from Kannapolis High School, whether it was Cannon
Sure.
or Hale Brown,
Yeah, that's right.
or
That's right.
not graduated,
Yeah.
the mill was the option.
Yeah, the mill was the
And
option.
That fail-safe was gone.
It was
forever.
gone. It was after 116 years. I think it was 116 years
Yeah.
we were in business.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
You know, I want to kind of take a little bit of a step back and learn a little bit more about the mill. You know, obviously I worked there. I got out of the military in summer of 1998 working a chemical dock, you know,
Right. No, exactly.
managing tons of chemicals that would come in, dyes and all the different things that go up to the dye department. Very, I don't know what's the right word, creepy basement is probably a good way.
I told
of
you it
putting
was creepy. It was dark. It was kind of wet. And
And if I get out of this life alive without any kind of cancers that I picked up from that place, you know, I'll feel really good because, you know, you probably took your life in your own hands
probably
every day going down
so.
there.
Probably so.
But, you know, thinking back to it, you was talking about you worked there in high school and then obviously you went to college, came back. You know, I feel like you were probably involved in every iteration of management, whether from the Cannon family to the sale to Murdoch in 82, Fieldcrest, and obviously up through Pilatex. But really thinking more along the lines of the Cannon family, how ahead of the time was the mill and just the structure from a business standpoint? You look at all the layers of management and, you know,
Right.
at the highest level to the plant managers, the superintendents, the foremans, the supervisors, everybody. How ahead of its time do you feel like the business structure of this mill was in comparison to corporate America and other stuff around here today?
Well, that's kind of hard to say. I will say this, that towards the end, we were very automated towards the end. I mean, if you'd walk in the weave rooms, the spinning rooms, I mean, robotics, if you got into even distribution, I mean, when I first started, we had this card file system. You'd have hundreds of thousands of cases that had a tag. And you'd have people did nothing but file these little tags, and then you'd pull an order to ship, and somebody'd have to go pull the tags and hand them to someone. Well, then everything was barcoded. Then we scanned everything. A lot of that happened. Probably started with Fieldcrest, probably more than Cannon, as far as making that jump through. I can remember the first time I saw a PC there at the company. You know, somebody had a personal computer, but you know,
That's a big deal.
it was a big deal. Look, he's got a
Does it make you wonder? You know, you saw it through the very end when it was very automated. You mentioned the little codes and the employees
Yeah.
punching things in. Did it make you wonder how well they did things in the earlier decades?
Yeah.
Once you saw the automation.
Yeah. You wonder about how,
Like,
you
wow.
know, it was. I remember we had this gentleman, and we called him Mr. Shug, and Shug was an African American. He was about 6'5", weighed about 250 pounds, and he could load a truck, and not very well educated, but the geometry of the cases, how to put them in to make them work, you know. And then after Shug, the computer would determine everything down to the case, what would go on based on the cube of the carton. You know, it's just strange. I would say probably Fieldcrest, probably more than Cannon did the automation. Far as that's when computers came out, and everything was driven by computer.
They jumped on it real quick.
Yeah, they jumped on it pretty quick. And I'll be honest with you, the marriage between Cannon and Fieldcrest was a very good marriage. It was, because we did the Mass, we did the Target, we did the Walmart, we did the Kmart, and they did all the upper end stores. So putting the two together was good. It really was.
You know, you mentioned, you know, this gentleman, Mr. Shug, and, you know,
Yeah,
how
Mr.
he could do
Shug.
things. And, you know, that takes me back to my times working there. And I wish I remembered some of the names. Some of them just been a long time.
It's been a long time for me as well.
It's just most of the people were probably, you know, some of them might have been high school dropouts.
Some
Practically none of them were probably college educated,
No.
but yet they were the most sophisticated people at their jobs.
Well, my
they
dad
could understand things so much at a different level
Yeah.
that someone like me or you or someone that went to
Yeah.
college would never see.
Yeah, my dad dropped out of school in the 5th grade. He was a weaver. And that is a skill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a lost skill that, you know, to be able to weave a towel. But when we closed, I told my dad was obviously still living. I told him, I said, you know, as hard as this is, I'm glad it happened to me and not you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I've got a degree. Hopefully I'll find something, you know, but what with my dad, and I had a lot of employees that things just didn't work out for them.
You're right. They were at that age where they were too old to pick up new things.
Yeah.
And other places to go was not an
Yeah,
option.
and in 2003, the economy was not good.
You're right. Right.
It was not good.
They did not know how they were going to provide for their family.
Yeah, I mean, you
and
know.
that's the reason for the crying. And they were sad for the family, but they were sad
Yeah,
for
they
themselves
were
also.
sad for the unknown.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't know. You know, I looked at these guys and they were crying, and God, they had me crying, and I said,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this is not what we hoped for. This is not what we prayed for, but this is it. We're closing, and you need to.
Well,
Yeah,
and the
there you
economy
things.
was bad anyway, and then you in Kannapolis, you layer on that
Right.
to an already bad economy, so none of the local places were going to be hiring additional people.
No. Correct.
Because,
No.
I mean, it was bad across the board. I mean,
I remember our church, First Baptist, we went into immediately opening food banks and
Yeah.
clothing, and we were doing that for months.
And I think
on end.
Kimball opened themselves up for the Employment Security Commission to come in
Correct.
and meet with people.
A lot of the churches chipped in and done
They
a lot
did.
of
This
things
is
downtown.
a very giving town.
Yes.
And when things got tough, people did step
I
up.
remember that.
Yeah,
Correct.
very much so.
Very resilient. One thing I want to ask, and this is a little bit of a different question, and something Ryan and I we've often talked and watched videos about. You know, you were in a management role. Talk about the different times the unions tried to come in and
Yeah.
how that affected you as a manager, and you know all
Yeah.
the goings on.
Okay, I can talk about that. Up until Pilatex bought us, we fought the unions. I guess I went through maybe 3 union campaigns. And we, as a company, we were successful every time. And I used to tell a buddy of mine, one of my best friends, UPS driver, he's retired now. He was in the union. I said, well, you know, UPS, they could stop a whole company needing a part. They had some leverage. Who has leverage with a towel? Mm-hmm. What kind of leverage do you have with a towel? You know,
good point.
You know, but anyway, when Pilatex bought us, they were union, and I think Chuck Hansen, the CEO, Charles Hansen, called him Chuck. He just said, "We're not going to spend the money, pay the lawyers, come on in, we'll do it." And did the union have anything to do with us closing? I'd say no. Did it help? Well, maybe not so much, but I cannot blame the union on us closing. There's too many other factors involved.
What were, and I remember when I worked there in 1998, 99, there was always seemed to be, because I think that was during the Unite. Yeah, I think the
Unite, yeah.
They were trying to come through. And it really seemed like it tried to, they tried to pit worker against worker. And there was
they
definitely
did.
a rift. I mean, it was tension.
Yeah, they did. What they tried to do is, I forgot the term they would have if they thought that an employee was pretty much in bed with management and all this other stuff. But one thing the union did for the people, it made us in management, we truly had to treat everybody alike. That you couldn't, you know, Susie's late because her 95-year-old mother fell and broke her hip. All we know is, Susie, you're late. We don't care about your mother. Because if you didn't, then the union would have a charge that we were doing something, you know, so anyway, it was.
So
for us in management, it was a little more aggravation than anything. It wasn't that big of a deal looking back. I never lost, as plant manager, I was like third step. I think I'd go through steps. I never lost a third step grievance, but you had to do with your shop steward a lot of times.
I think that example you just gave, and I know it's a theoretical example of whatever, and you happen to look at that as just the way it is. It's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
It's very counter to how this town was.
Yeah, I mean, back when at Cannon, Lord love them, to get fired at Cannon Mills, you almost have to kill somebody. Right. I mean, it was, and of course they owned the police department. They knew everything going on.
Yeah. They knew if you'd done that.
I mean, somebody could be out, every Friday, and he's a good old boy. Let's don't worry about it. But all of that changed. Right. Where you had to play it straight with people. But I think the transition from Cannon to Fieldcrest was good. From Fieldcrest to Pilatex was not good. It was not a good deal for us.
Would there have been a better company to have bought Fieldcrest?
Well, the rumor was that Springs was going to buy us.
I remember that.
Yeah, but I tell people when Pilatex bought us, and I want to be careful what I say, but it was almost like Kannapolis Dixie Youth buying the New York Yankees. Yeah. I mean, this was a chicken feather outfit out of Dallas, Texas. Their sales were about $600 million. Ours was $1 billion. Our debt load was, from memory, $250 million, that's good. That's good. 250 to 1. Okay. Well, suddenly our debt load became 1.6. Or no, I'm sorry, it became $1 billion. Our sales were 1.6.
Wow.
So between that and the pressure,
it just couldn't continue.
Well, it couldn't continue, and the management style of Pilatex, we were in trouble with the banks. So let's do this. Let's just go ahead and run the mill. Let's build it this. We can sell it. Then we couldn't sell it, and then we had issues with Kmart, which they were going out of business, and they were really ripping us off. And then Target did something called a reverse auction, where you think of an auction as the highest bidder. Well, this was the lowest bidder.
Oh, wow.
Where they would say, we want you to produce this towel, and these are the colors, this is the size, this is the weight, this is the thread count. So all these people would call in and say, well, I can do that for $3.25. Well, I'll do it for $3 a towel. I'll do it.
Who the lowest?
The lowest, so it was the lowest. And then Walmart had us over the barrel, and towards the end, our margins with Walmart were zero, and that was just to keep the lights on. Wow. So it was a slow, painful death. But
wow,
yeah.
It's something how things change, and you go from Mr. Cannon, who told the banks to back off from foreclosing on North Carolina.
Same thing.
That's right. To
the opposite of the banks controlling the whole fate of the company, because
and I blame the banks for loaning Pilatex the money to buy us.
Right.
Here's the deal. We were the first one to go out of business, first major one. Springs they went out of business. Dan River went out of business. We should have been. At least we should have been the last, not the first.
West Point, Stevens.
Everybody, they all went out of business.
Yeah, because you were the best.
We were the best. We had the best lines. I can still travel. I was in New York and said something about, you ever heard of Cannon? Cannon towels. Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Hindsight being what it is, 2020. Is there any avenue that could have been taken back in the late 90s, early 2000s that could have seen the mill stay in business and it still be operating today? Or do you think it was inevitable that it was going to go away?
I think the only way it could have been saved is probably to reduce the manufacturing footprint, probably get in some kind of smaller niche, and that would have been a tough decision.
That would have been a Band-Aid.
It would have been a Band-Aid. When you're competing against someone in China making $1 an hour with the same equipment, and they're not worrying about safety and OSHA, and they're not paying a pension plan or 401k.
And they're not
that's just tough.
And they're not running a 6 million square foot city within a city.
That's right.
You know,
That's
I mean,
right.
Plant
Quality.
One was
Yeah.
They're
Plant
not
One
supplying
was-
housing and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
to
like
go
my
along with
grandparents
it.
lived in a
Right.
mill house, and they
Correct.
paid, yeah,
Yeah,
basically
Nothing.
nothing.
I mean, it was a city within the city because it did everything.
The power,
everything.
the
Yeah.
police, the
Painting,
power.
plumbing.
Plumbing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Everything, and it was all subsidized by the company.
That's
I
right.
mean, you know,
That's
it's
right.
you compare Plant One to Plant Six, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Plant Six was kind of its own freestanding place. It was
Right.
distribution and
Mm-hmm.
you know all that stuff. Very different from what Plant One, and people have said to this day, people will still say, well, you know, they could have turned Plant One into apartments and stores. There's no way.
No way.
I mean,
people don't understand.
There's no way. It couldn't have. I mean, you would have had to rip everything down. And
Can you
start
imagine
over.
all the asbestos,
infrastructure.
everything,
Yes.
the chemical? Yeah,
Yeah.
No,
The distribution center in itself.
it was 3.2 million square
Yeah,
feet.
there you
You
go.
couldn't have enough antiques to fill up all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand the demolition of all these facilities was only second to the World Trade Center.
Right.
Ah,
It was the
True statement?
second largest
Yeah,
demolition in American history.
And
that's right.
And
Put that in perspective.
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
And going back to the dye department that I worked in, there was never going to be any refitting of that. That place
No.
was,
No.
oh man.
No, everybody says, "Oh, they could have." Yeah, no. I
can-
tell people I was there. You can't do it.
I can
Let's
still-
just be thankful and blessed what we have now.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
I ride through there. I go out of my way to ride through there, and I'm just amazed. And thank you, Ryan. Anybody on city council or whatever. It's just I'm just amazed.
Well, and I said today to numerous people, we had a little thing for my birthday at work because I turned 40, as you said earlier.
Right?
You know, I've spent now almost half my life working where my mom worked, my dad worked, my
Yeah.
great-granddad's farm was. I mean, generations, my grandparents, you know, they all worked there, as you know.
Sure.
And, you know, I've spent almost half of my life. I started there when I was 22.
Right.
And thank God that there's been more people been able to have a career on that same property.
Yes.
I mean, granted, it's not thousands, but it's been better than nothing.
It's better than grass and rats.
That's right.
That's
Absolutely.
correct. And there's probably not another town or city in the country that has the footprint to have been through what Kannapolis
I
has.
agree. But we're the envy of a lot of towns.
You
Yes.
are exactly
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Now, I know we had years and years and years where you could go downtown and spend an hour and not see anybody.
Right.
But to go and transform what seems like yesterday now, which has been years and years and years in the making,
Right.
to do a full 180 is
Yeah.
just
I mean, on the weekends.
Yes.
It's hard to find a place to park.
Yes.
That's true.
That's a
And
great
that's a
problem.
great
It's a great problem. I say
Yes,
great
it's
problem.
exactly what you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you know, other cities, and it's not the same scale, obviously, but Detroit. You know,
Yeah.
This was like Ford Motor Company closing,
Right,
like just going away,
right.
and you never get another Ford vehicle ever again. That's what happened here.
right.
And the proportionate scale of that place to the city, there's not. I mean, you had that place and you had Plant 4, and that's a bunch of property and a bunch of square footage. But comparing it to Detroit and the amount of people that's in Detroit and the amount of factories that have just shuttered and have been standing there for 80, 50, 60, 70 years of just
People's
deterioration.
Yeah.
And that's what you live in, is deterioration. And
And that's what you breed.
that's what you,
Yes.
absolutely.
That's what you breed as well.
Correct.
And so
Yeah.
it's a blessing that we have what we have.
It is absolutely. I am. Thank you. I am just blown away about how everything has worked out.
But
And I could be bitter, and I'm not.
well, no,
You know.
and there's a lot of reasons to be because of
No.
what happened, but you have to move past it, and
You got to.
and we want to document these stories because the truth is, I mean, that history is a tough history.
Yeah.
That place you see in that last box go out the gate.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was
That's
pretty
tough.
tough. I don't know if you guys have been to the 9/11 museum. You guys have been. in
Not
New York?
yet. I'd love to.
Well, there's a room you can go there, and you can sit down like this and tell your story about what you were doing that day. on 9/11.
Everybody remembers where they were.
And then 100 years from now, someone can hear a first person.
Yes.
You
That's
know.
exactly why we're doing this right
Yes.
here.
That's
So 100
exactly
years from
right.
now, somebody can
Somebody's
hear
going
me.
to watch this. Look at those guys. What are they talking about?
What, they're talking about dolphin cloth?
Yeah.
What's a cloth dolphin?
That is, you talk about the woven, tight-knit fabric of our community. That mill is every bit the DNA of this town, and it's worth us telling the story.
It is.
Because,
It
we couldn't get, I still feel like as great as you talked about our downtown and the amount of people and all the new things that are happening, I still don't think we've reached where we're going to get. I think it's going to get so much better. But if we don't remember where we came from,
Right.
we can't appreciate what we've
Right.
got today. And
Right.
I think that's why these stories matter
Yeah.
and they resonate.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and you think about the people.
But I wouldn't change anything the way it
No.
played out for me.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't. I would
Yeah.
have signed up day one like I did.
you think about the people that have moved here in the past 10 years.
They don't
15
know
years.
that history.
They
No.
have no idea
They have
about
no
this.
No.
clue what
No.
our parents and us have gone through.
Yeah, third generation for
Yes.
you. What, third
Right.
generation? Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody last week. It was a vendor and at work, and she lives across the street from the research campus, and she was asking about that place and what we do and all this stuff, and I said, "Well, how old are you?" And she said, "Well, I'm 23." I think she said she was. I said, "So you don't remember the mill
No.
really at all?" She
No
said,
clue
"No."
whatsoever.
She said, I vaguely remember, it being torn down, but have no recollection of it." And 23, that's not super young. That's,
No.
and you think about the amount of 20 to 25 to 30-year-olds that are out here today in our city, they have no clue.
Yeah, I tell my grandchildren, sometimes we'll take them to the slot car place.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll point over there right in front of City Hall. And I said, I think Pop's office was somewhere around there. I said, maybe an archaeologist in 1,000 years will find a paper clip. Came out of my office, and they'll pick it up. Yeah.
Wow.
Man, that is great.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
this has been great to hear.
sure
those
has.
Well, I hope I
stories.
didn't bore you guys.
No.
No. And this is exactly what every time we do stories on the mill, we always learn new aspects of it. Today we learned from Cannon to Pilatex to Fieldcrest how that happened. A lot of people don't even know that are still have been part of it and
Yeah,
stuff. And
right.
You had two versions of Cannon. Cannon,
Correct.
Murdoch's Cannon.
You had
and
Cannon,
Yeah.
Murdoch's Cannon.
and then
Cannon's Cannon.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, I want to ask you one question.
Sure.
Just kind of reminisce on a story, maybe your
what I was gonna
favorite. Yeah, sorry.
No,
your
that's
favorite memory of the plant, maybe a smell, maybe the creaky floors. The
Yeah.
Something crazy.
something about the place.
Yeah, you're talking about probably the old distribution center. You had the new distribution center was built in the 60s, and you had what we called ODC, Old Distribution Center. It was, gosh, I don't know when it was built. I think it was old.
Old.
It was old.
I think that's my mom's last job up there working in.
Yeah, well, she probably, I think at the very end, your mom had order pickers in both buildings, in the new and the old. But you get in the warehouse in the old distribution center, yeah, you're talking about the floors, the massive beams. The hand-hewed beams. It was old stuff. And you're right, you can hear the floor. Sometimes at night I can visualize, or I can hear like the strappers on the strapping the cases, or the conveyor system running.
Wow.
But
that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And my memories are like the checkerboard water tank, the tallest tank
Yeah.
around. And the old Mack fire truck fighting the fire at the gym theater, and it being so cold, it slid down the hill from the traffic light because the
man.
water froze. It was so cold that night, and it was that's just things that you'll always remember.
I'll tell you another sound. My grandparents lived on North Juniper, and I can remember they blew the whistle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think they blew it.
5:30, 6:40, and 7 o'clock. 5:30 was get up, at 6:40, let everybody know you had 20 minutes to get there,
Right.
and then they blowed it.
Yeah, I can remember the sound of the whistle.
Yep.
Yeah,
Was
I
there
can remember
some-
also the buses. You know,
Yes,
they ran
I remember
Kannapolis.
that.
Yeah, Kannapolis Transit.
Kannapolis Transit.
Taxi stations downtown.
Yeah,
and-
I remember my
Yeah,
parents
I mean,
having little
it-
tokens for the
Yes.
bus. They'd ride
yeah.
the bus door.
And you
I've
know,
got a
total
sign.
gridlock at 2:30 in the afternoon. I mean, we're at that age, and we remember that.
Oh yeah, I had
You
relatives.
couldn't-
I had relatives come up from the country, eastern North Carolina, and they literally went to the parking lot at 11 o'clock. They couldn't visualize so many people coming out of a plant.
At 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. And I can, hey, I think Ryan left us. I can still remember, working in the dye department. I worked in the basement, where I
Creepy.
stored all the chemicals. I can still remember the smell. I can still remember a guy named, I think his name was Ricky Dry, who would clean out the old barrels that had the dye in it, and that had to be one of the toughest jobs in the mill.
Is Ricky still with us?
I don't know. I would love to know that, because he was relentless at getting those. He had his own little cage down there under there. Walking up through the top of the bleachery over past the dye department, walking through like when they go through the dye department, then they go up to the dryers where they dry.
You remember
the
those-
heat coming off the building?
Yeah, yeah. You remember those pits? How deep those?
Oh gosh, the caustic and the different. Oh my gosh, yeah. And I remember the guys. I'm trying to think of. There was a guy that ran one of the mixing pits that he told me one time, because they got paid so much more than me. And he said, man, I get paid what I know, not what I do.
Yeah.
But they would mix all those chemicals in these vats that were probably like 50
Yeah.
feet deep. It was
man.
crazy.
No, it's,
Wow.
The sign you're holding. Who was Mr. Kannapolis Transit in our day? You know who I'm talking about? He drove the band and the football.
Oh.
Gene Sweat.
Gene Sweat.
Yeah.
Gene Sweat. Absolutely.
Mr.
I
Kannapolis
got to figure
Transit.
out a place to hang this in here. We've
Yeah.
had it for
Yeah,
years.
yeah. You're taking
That's-
me back a while. Gene Sweat.
Is there? And before we go, I know we keep saying this. Before we go, is there a funny story of something that happened there that you think about? When something comes up about the mill, say, "Man, that was the craziest thing I've ever had happen."
Well, what happened to me, not very smart. I guess the first summer I was working in the slash room painting, and it was all oil based, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had Varsol
Mm-hmm.
and clean your
Wash it
brush.
out.
Yeah. Well, I took a rag of Varsol and I put it in my back pocket.
Oh man.
That didn't work out too good. that did
You
not.
say rash
Right. I ended up in the medical department.
over Dr. Blunt's office.
Was it
Yeah.
above the gym theater then, or was
Yeah.
it?
Well, I remember when it was at Gym Theater, but I remember when they had the medical building there
Yeah.
behind the old
The-
Y.
Yeah,
office.
Yeah.
that was
Yeah, the
that was
office.
fairly new.
Yes,
but,
yes. That
I
was,
mean, for me personally,
Right.
the Varsol, don't put a Varsol rag in your back pocket. It'll
I don't even know where you can get Varsol anymore.
yeah,
it's probably illegal.
Yeah.
probably a lot of people don't know what
It's good stuff.
Varsol is.
Yeah,
It's good
they
stuff.
don't want to know.
I was thinking, I think the guys that was kind of running those caustic tanks and stuff back there, I think their names was James McFarland, Harold Foster, another guy, Kim. I can't think of his last name. His first name was Kim. But, just thinking back through the memories of some
Yeah,
of those guys.
I tell you some sad memories. I mean, when you have 365 people, I had a couple of people to die on the job,
Wow.
Oh,
bet.
man.
and that was tough. And I even had a suicide,
Oh, man.
and that was terrible. But some things like that. But I have nothing but fond memories, and really
That's great.
appreciated
That's,
an opportunity to work there.
Yeah.
And
that's great stories. That's exactly what we want to hear.
Absolutely.
And you have stepped up to the plate.
I don't know about that, guys. I
Kudos
bet
to your career there.
Nah,
and,
no,
Send
it
us
was-
some more people to talk to.
Yeah, there we go.
that might tell some stories on me. I better be
That's all
careful.
right. That's all
You know.
right. Man, well, Keith, thank you for joining us
Thank
here.
you.
And this has been
I've
great.
enjoyed this. It took me back.
we have too.
Yeah.
And if you
thank
remember anything else, you're always welcome to come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You guys are the best.
All right,
We
you are
appreciate
too.
you.
All right.
Thank
thanks.
you, sir.
All right, guys. Well, Chuck, Dr. Dave, appreciate you. Ryan, I'm going to let you close us out. Any final
Oh,
thoughts?
man, I'm good. I'm just glad Keith was able to come today and spend my birthday with Keith and
That's
you
right.
and Chuck.
Happy
I mean,
birthday.
What more could I want? I got my
That's
mom sitting over here watching, make sure she's keeping.
I do okay.
I think life is good in the Ryan Dayvault
You
camp.
done.
Yeah. So
All right.
so far,
Well,
so good.
for Chuck, Dr. Dave, Rough Talk Ryan, Dayvault, Chris Hughes, Keith Garver, thank you. That is going to be it for Mill People episode number 2. As always, like and subscribe to our content on YouTube, K-Town Connection, follow our K-Town Connection Facebook page and all the other platforms. For all the guys, we're out of here. 3 for Dale.
3 for Dale.
3 for Dale.
Are you throwing it or not?
We don't throw it on Mill
Oh, that's
People.
right. Yeah.
All right, guys.
That was great.
That was perfect.